Shedeur and Travis's numbers go up this weekend. We didn't get a chance to talk about it Friday because people can't drive, but I just wanted to get your thoughts about all this. And, after like a week of hearing other people's opinions and, back and forth with folks, where do you stand on this a couple of days after the spring game and watching it be done?
College football of any of the sports relies upon the past and legacy. If Notre Dame is playing on national TV, at some point in the pregame, they're going to show black and white footage of Newt Rockne and the Four Horsemen. If USC is playing on national TV, I guarantee you Reggie Bush highlight will be played. A Marcus Allen highlight will be played. We embrace the past in college football. That's where the alumni, that's why we can come to a game and we can have graduated 40 years before, because our time on campus is honored and respected. And it's not just this team, it's our team, which means we are all Colorado Buffaloes from the very beginning until now. So 130 plus years of Colorado football, it's still us. It's still CU. Yep. And so my issue is not like, Coach Prime, you're a bad guy. I can't believe you would do this. And it's not, of course, Travis wins the Heisman Trophy. Of course, your number should be retired at some point. We can quibble about, and there's been lots of conversation about Shedeur and 2 years, and is that enough, and all that to be included in this list of greats. That's certainly an argument to be had. But I don't have an issue with the kids. I certainly can't blame the kids. And I don't know who was the driver behind this decision. I saw your tweet where you talked to some folks who talked to Prime and got a little information there. And so no matter who was the driver in this, to ignore the greatest era of college football at CU can't help but land poorly upon me. To not acknowledge someone who just went into the College Football Hall of Fame, who wears the same number as Shedeur. Number 2, you mentioned Deion Figures. Yep. Deion Figures, first-round draft pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a CU Hall of Famer, a College Football Hall of Famer, won the Thorpe Award for the best defensive back in the country. And while we're giving his highlights, was a part of the greatest era of college football at CU. The national championship season was a massive part of what we did. In fact, it was such a massive part, had the game-sealing interception in the Orange Bowl. So if you're going to talk about accolades, not just personal, but team, I'm not sure if you can come up with a better record than that. So for him to be leapfrogged by someone else who just finished playing, who still should be on campus taking classes, it lands rather poorly on me. So are the players deserving? Yes. And again, we quibble about Shedeur, but Travis certainly. And is there something to Coach Prime saying, well, Rashawn's passed and now Coach McCartney's passed, and they're just getting a statue up, so I want guys to receive theirs while they're still here? I get that. But at the same time, there is a tradition, there's an established tradition of a bit of a waiting period for these kinds of things. And so, it lands poorly for several reasons, but mainly because it ignores the great past. Now, is Coach Prime responsible to do that, to give someone else, some other team, someone who's not his players, their flowers? Yes. You are, because the past matters. Legacy matters. The shoulders that we stand upon matters. We are all Colorado Buffaloes, not just these guys. CU football has been played for 130 years, not just the last 3 years. So it all matters. And so while you think, well, this is a great honor I want to give these guys, one of the things you should do is look to the past and see who else deserves to be honored. When in the NFL, when a new CBA comes up, a new collective bargaining agreement, the older players typically don't get a voice in the room for that negotiation between the current players and the owners. But what's one of the things that the current players do? They usually find ways to give older players a little bit of what they got. Here's another year of severance. Here's another year of medical savings. Here's a boost in your pension. You give back to the past because those are the shoulders that you stand upon. So clearly I've got some feelings about all this. But I don't think the three main people that people are talking about, Prime, Travis, and Shedeur, are bad guys here. I just think the situation was not handled well.
For sure.
All right. So from what Mike and Cordell told me, it was, a Rick George thing and yada, yada, yada. Everybody saw the video. How does CU move forward to kind of mend the alum and the ex-players that are taken back by this and the new generation of people that have come with Coach Front? Because there's like a line down the fan base, and I know everyone can feel it. It's happening in the comments. It happens constantly. I can even say that we are the best tampering team in America, and people come to us and people think I'm saying that tampering's bad. No, we're really good at it. I think we kick ass. How do you think we can all stand shoulder to shoulder and heal off of this? Do you think it cheapens it a little bit if Rick starts just retiring people's numbers left and right here going into the season? Every week we're retiring someone's number. I don't know if that has the same weight for me moving forward. So I don't know how to fix this question. I saw TC McCartney said something that was really cool. TC is Coach Mac's grandson, Sal's son, and he's a great coach. He's interwoven in college football. I think he'll be a good head coach one day. They're going to honor Coach Mac with a statue, which is awesome. I can't wait to see it. TC said that retiring numbers is pretty stupid in his opinion in college football because you'll run out of numbers quick because it's on four-year rotations. But then also, we had Hannibal on last Wednesday, and he wore number 8. Well, the same number that Sal wore. Don't you think it should be like if somebody wants, like Lawrence Vickers when he was a freshman, wore 34? Shouldn't that 34 have Chad Brown patch on it? Or like Sal's number, that Hannibal should have a number 8 patch on it. Like, a Westbrook, but an 81, a 10, a 2. Shedeur should have had a figures patch on his jersey or whatever. So how do you feel, or how do you think that we can all heal off of this? Because that's the next step here is we can have decisiveness and we can have hard talks. But in the reality of it, we're all shoulder to shoulder, and we got to come together here as Buffs.
Yeah, I think the last point is number one. But I think when something like this, when this can of worms gets opened, you got to start to dissect all the worms in the can. And so, what are we retiring numbers for? Why was there this lapse? Why has only been 4 numbers for the last 100 plus 130 years? And now we do 2 here. What's the policy? What's the procedure? Do we need to have a committee that does this, that has current folks from the past? Let's take a fresh look at this process. I like what you're talking about. And now Coach Prime alluded to some of this when he was talking about giving out some of these special numbers, number 1 and things like that.
Yep.
So at certain schools, there's certain numbers where that number is an earned thing. For a while, I believe it was number 60 at Texas. If you played inside linebacker, if you were given number 60, which is not the sexiest of inside linebacker numbers.
It's the best number out there, baby. Don't
which is not the sexiest of inside linebacker. Maybe for a D lineman or an offensive lineman.
Yeah, if you're wearing 60 at middle linebacker, you better be Chuck Bednarik.
Yeah, but there was some kind of tradition there, so that number was earned. It was
like 11 at Penn State.
Yes. Yes.
So LeVar Arrington and Michael Parsons and all the other cats that have worn it, with Abdul Carter wearing it now.
Yeah. So do we do something like that? The patch idea seems great because now we're bridging the past to the current. And so that guy wears number 2. And so maybe this year he wears a Shedeur Sanders honor, and then maybe next year it's a Deion Figures, and the next guy who wears 34 has got a CB, and at some point he wear whoever else 34 has been worn by. I'm down for that because yes, you will run out of numbers if you go crazy with this, and then it cheapens it if you give these away. So what's Rick George to do here? And it's a bit sad for me also that this unveiling of the plans for Coach Mac's statue gets kind of lost in this conflict about the retirement of Shedeur and Travis's numbers, because I think that should have been the lead. But, of course, I've got ties to Coach Mac, and this current regime doesn't have it in the same way. So, how do we do all that? I mean, and this current crop of Coach Prime fans who are also CU fans along the way, but seem to be more Coach Prime fans. Mm-hmm. Those are some difficult folks, as evidenced by the comments on my X feed, or to educate on the history of the program and where we've been, and because in their minds, CU is a awful football program. Coach Prime came in and saved it, and that's the end of the story. Well, there's a story before that, and there was greatness before that, and there were All-Americans before that, and NFL Hall of Famers before that. Cliff Branch, recently inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame, I played ball with his son, Brent Branch. So Cliff would come around all the time. In fact, Cliff came back and played in the spring game where we used to play football against the alumni. So not only was I aware of the alumni.
You used to play alumni in the spring game?
Yes, that was a real thing.
Shut up.
So there was a real black and gold game, which was a competitive, full tempo spring game with special teams.
How do I sign up for this? I got one more fucking half in me.
And then there was a alumni game where the alumni would come back. And so the alumni in the threes would play the ones and the twos in a spring football game.
So the alumni get the walk-ons? Fuck, we're screwed.
Yes. And so Cliff Branch came back and took my roommate up top for 2 TDs, ran right past him. And I think Cliff was like in his mid-40s by that point. And
that's one fast human being, brother.
And like you, I was like, I can't wait to play in this thing because I'm going to play tight end and free safety. I'm going to blow somebody up.
You're all skinny out here looking all good.
Yes, they canceled that game once I got into the NFL, so I didn't have a chance to do that. But we had a chance to know the past, literally play football against the past greats of CU. So there was that thing. And so this current generation has very little respect in some ways for the past. And it's evidence when I talk to where I'm coaching some kids up or some guys who are preparing for the NFL draft, and I'll give them an example of a player, and they'll say, well, who's that? I'm like, it's one of the all-time greats. Don't you study football? Don't you know anything? They don't. If it hasn't happened in the last couple of years, it doesn't exist to them. So how do we bridge that gap? Again, a very long-winded answer to your question, but I think to take a fresh look at this and come up with some programs, the patch program sounds tremendous to me because now we're honoring the past at the same time.
Absolutely.
Well,